Welcome back to month number 3 of the 2025 plan, a series in which I'm documenting my honest training results, giving away the programs that I'm following for free. You can find, as always, down below. We'll get to the what and the why later on. But first, there's always a little bit of a risk when you share kind of a big goal or idea in mind on YouTube that I'm not able to follow through, but so far, touch wood or something, the plan seems to be on track. I just feel like I'm in a good rhythm and I've got good momentum with training and food. Potentially slightly too much with the food side of things because the scales are still incrementally ticking upwards. Speaking of food, let's grab some breakfast. The simple breakfast solution right now seems to be the fridge buffet, basically making sure that there is some cooked protein, carb source, and then going with whatever is lying about. The key, however, is making sure that I don't have to cook anything, I just chug it together and we're good to go. Today I've got some leftover chicken thighs, roasted carrots, roasted potatoes. I've also got some chicken liver just for the kind of micronutrient, Parmesan cheese, jalapeno relish just for a little bit of spice and flavor. Macros are on screen for this particular one, but the only problem is that does vary each day. The only thing I'm trying to do is make sure I hit that protein requirement, somewhere around 60 to 70 grams of protein, some sort of carb source with it. Yeah. So I've been thinking a lot about training this year, and I'm trying to take a little bit more of an agile approach. What this involves is keeping the core focus on those main goals. We say that's like the 70-80%. We've then got like the other 20-30%, which can just be adjusted based on what you feel is missing. Maybe this changes a little bit more frequently, but essentially the theme for this month is increasing intensity, returning to isometrics, and continuing to do more work. Doing more has been intentionally slow this year. At the start of this series, I started with just 3 days a week. Started with very simple exercises and reasonably short, sweet. Just wanted to be focused on doing. Initially, it felt like too little, but it's kind of the point. Right now, I'm up to like 5 days a week, and that for me is the sweet spot in terms of feeling that I don't need to do any more, but equally that it's not an overwhelming amount. It's something that I could maintain both from a recovery and just logistical point of view. One of the tools that I've used to help me maintain that momentum, something that I used over the past couple of years, is this sort of minimal training approach in terms of equipment. Right now, I'm doing a push session in a random park in London in between clients. I don't need any equipment, I just need some time and space, and obviously very lucky to actually get sun for once. Out of the 5 sessions that I'm doing each week, I only have 1 session, which is legs, that I need to be in the gym for. This makes it very adaptable and flexible to my lifestyle to fit those sessions in whenever I can and not make the excuse to miss them. Before we jump into the details, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Vivo Barefoot. We train calisthenics and flexibility so we can have the freedom to move our body whichever way it wants, and it shouldn't stop at the feet. There's a reason that I've used Vivos for the past 8 years, and they're my shoe of choice when it comes to training because they just allow your foot to express its full dexterity and movement. The current favorites are these, the Primus Light 3.5s. If you want to grab yourself a pair of these or any of the other shoes, then you can use this discount code, save yourself 20% off and help to support the channel. Right, let's get back to training. Next, returning to isometrics, and it's probably easiest just to explain this by sharing some of the isometrics that I'm using in this program. Oftentimes we start with calisthenics with isometric stuff. That's because a lot of the skills are static in nature. After a beginner point, we kind of move past it and forget about it, but they're so underrated. And this month, including in some of this work, has been honestly some of the best my body has felt whilst training. There's many benefits to them, including improving the coordination of a muscle contraction, so we get to understand how to work different muscles together, as well as inside the actual muscle itself, we get to actually recruit things faster and in a more effective manner. This actually does translate quite well over to actual dynamic strength positions as well. They're great at improving sort of tissue quality, so both from like connective tissue and tendon perspective, which is part of the reason that I've got them in at the moment. And obviously we can use them from a flexibility perspective as well. This is probably more where most people will be using them in their current training. Finally, they're just very easy to fit in. You could do them at the beginning of a session. They could be pre-fatiguing a certain area. They could be activating a certain area, bringing some awareness to it. We could do them at the end of the session to focus on additional training or time under tension in weaker points. They're actually very, very low in terms of strain on the central nervous system from a recovery perspective, so they're a great way of adding more volume without taxing the body. There's a lot to this. I'm kind of working on a video right now to explain that in more detail, but yeah, isometrics, they're back with a vengeance. The final change this month has been increasing intensity finally. I know a lot of you have said in the comments that why am I basically doing a lot of my training in higher rep ranges if I want to build strength? It's a very valid point, and you're completely correct. Now is the time to turn that notch up. So part of the reason I've been working on easier stuff at the beginning of the year was that I had a slight tweak to my wrist. For no particular reason, I just woke up one day and it hurt. And when my main goals are handstand push-up and planche, both of which are very wrist-intensive movements, I just simply couldn't train them at a high intensity. Just because you have these small hurdles doesn't mean you can't get some effective training in, and that's why I've just been doing easier stuff. But the wrist now feels back to normal, and I'm now on that steady progression back to some intensity. I'm including in this phase some negative handstand push-ups. I could do reps here, but I think again this is a bit of a jump. There's no harm in doing a little bit of extra work at some more foundational levels. The same for pulling, just some sort of more intense movements without necessarily adding load. So things like a sub-scap pull-up, which is kind of introducing in this front lever element. They are actually pretty freaking challenging. The most obvious example of increasing intensity is with the squat, the lower body. I'm on my step loading pattern here. So I started off with 100 kilos for 5 reps. That was kind of the month ago. And right now I'm on 110 kilos for 5 reps. So up 10%. And I'm just gonna keep ticking up 2.5 kilos until I can't anymore. The interim goal is to hit 120 for 5, at which point I think I'll be able to hit 140 kilos for a single. And then if I stay on this trajectory at just adding 2.5 kilos a week, it puts me on my goal of 180 kilos, definitely well within reach. Other than that, the leg session has kind of remained the same. I don't really need to change what I'm working on. I'm just weak and I need to squat more weight. So more weight it is. Nice and simple. Probably the only change is the addition of some isometric leg training for flexibility work on a second leg day. Again, just going down the isometric benefits as I mentioned earlier and trying to increase the amount of work done, but reducing the fatigue element. So isometrics were the perfect match in that instance. So yeah, as I said, things are generally ticking along nicely in the right direction. I will keep doing the work. I'll update you in the next episode. And as always, if you have any questions about this video, anything in this series, please let me know in the comment section down below. I do love reading through the comments and it really helps to inform these videos. So please let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you next one. Have a strong week.